Hello, and welcome to the Misty Morrison podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison. So let me tell you a little bit about the podcast. Here on the Misty Morrison podcast, we have 3 different segments. We have Was I in the Wrong, which was our initial launching segment, where I read Reddit stories and give my opinion. It's mostly Am I the Asshole type stories, where people are either asking if they acted appropriately in a situation that's already passed or asking how to deal with a current situation. The next segment that we have is Petty Please, where we read stories of pettiness, entitlement, kind of Karen behavior. And then we also have What the Fluff, where I read stories. A lot of the stories will be from, tales from the front desk, tales from retail, tales from customer service, tales from tech support, those kind of stories, just where it's just unbelievable the way that people acted. So that is basically what the podcast is. I read the stories, give my opinion. While this is available in audio format, podcast only, or video on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below with your judgment on the stories or your advice. If you are listening on podcast, you can comment on socials. You can find me at Misty Morrison Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I post twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do post more Was I in the Wrong than we do of Petty Please and What the Fluff. So that's mostly the content that we have. And most of our episodes, we aim for the 20 to 30 minute mark for episodes. So it's not super short, but it is still easy to digest. Maybe it can get you through your morning or afternoon commute. I also have my own subreddit, r/Misty Morrison Podcast, where you can submit your own stories to be read on the podcast. I always try to remember to put the link to the original stories on Reddit in the description box below, in case you guys would like to read the original story for yourselves, or even better, leave a comment for the original poster or OP. If you are watching on YouTube, please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. It helps the channel grow. And if you are listening on podcast, go ahead and leave a 5-star review if you like the content. That is our introduction, so let's get into the stories. Hello, and welcome to the Misty Morrison Podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison, and this is episode 5 of Was I in the Wrong? So for our first story today, story number 1 is coming from r/Am I the Asshole? AITA for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding after she replaced me as maid of honor because I'm too fat. I'm pregnant, and asking her to pay me back for everything. Initial reaction, no, you're right, because that doesn't sound like a friend. Let's read on. I, 27 female, have been best friends with Claire, 28 female, since high school. When she asked me to be her maid of honor, I was thrilled and went all out to make her wedding special. I paid for the bridal shower, bachelorette party, a weekend trip, decorations, and other expenses, spending several $1,000s. While it was a lot of money for my husband and me, I wanted to make her big day perfect because she's like family to me. 2 months ago, I shared that I'm 4 months pregnant. Claire congratulated me but started acting distant afterward. She excluded me from conversations about the wedding and made passive comments about how hard it is to coordinate when people are distracted. I brushed it off, thinking it was wedding stress. A few days ago, she sat me down and told me she didn't want me in the wedding anymore. Her reason? I'm getting too fat, and she doesn't want me in the pictures. She says she has a specific vision for her wedding, and I no longer fit it. I was devastated. I asked if this was about my pregnancy, but she insisted it wasn't personal. She said she was replacing me as maid of honor with another friend who fit her aesthetic. I told her if I wasn't in the wedding, I wouldn't attend at all. I also handed her the receipts for everything I'd paid for and told her she or her fiancé needed to reimburse me since I'd only spent that money as her maid of honor. Claire flipped out, calling me selfish and accusing me of trying to ruin her wedding. She said it was tacky to ask for the money back and that expenses like these were my responsibility as maid of honor. I reminded her that she removed me from that role, so those expenses were no longer mine. Since then, Claire, her fiance, and even her family have been spamming me with calls and texts. They're accusing me of being petty and overreacting because of pregnancy hormones. They're also saying I should have just let it go and written off the money because weddings are stressful, and Claire didn't mean to hurt me. My husband has been incredibly supportive and says I did the right thing. He's furious at how Claire treated me and agrees that I shouldn't be out thousands of dollars for a wedding I'm not part of. I feel heartbroken and humiliated by someone I thought was my best friend. Still, the constant backlash has made me second guess myself. AITA for standing up for myself and asking for reimbursement? Should I have just quietly stepped aside? So OP is 100,000% right. What your friend did is, if anyone's being tacky, it's Claire. I get that weddings are stressful, but I would say it's a character flaw to treat somebody differently because of this one special day that's so important for whatever reason. It's just one day. Like, you'll be fine. To take you out of the wedding for whatever reason it really is, whether it's because you're pregnant, whether it's because you're fat, because you gained weight, whatever. Like, that is her choice if she doesn't want you there. But to then be like to do it after you spent thousands of dollars giving her all these experiences, trying to make this special for her, and then be like, well, you already spent it. Too bad. That is incredibly selfish. Very wrong. And like, I would say that you spend that money under false pretenses if she even potentially had the plan to get all this out of you and then cross you off the list after. I don't know that's what happened, but it's possible. Either way, it feels almost like stealing, that she's like, well, you're not maid of honor anymore, but thanks for the bachelorette party and everything. Yeah. And it doesn't even really sound like she was grateful for any of it. So OP, you are right. Claire is wrong. And it sounds like her and her fiance are a perfect match. I hope that you can find better friends after this experience. All right, moving along. I literally just scroll. I have some saved, but I literally just scroll Reddit in between stories to try to pick a good one. Let's see. Ooh, this looks like a good one. And then after I find it, I save it. And then I copy the link to go to my handy dandy notes app and save the link so I can put it in the description for you guys when I upload it. Okay. This is story number 2, coming from r/AITAH. Am I the asshole for bringing a dish from my culture to my in-laws' family reunion? Immediate thoughts, as long as no guidelines were given as to what you could or would bring. No, you're right. If guidelines weren't given, you can bring whatever you want. If you already knew in advance that they would not like it or did not like it, that's different. But so far, not wrong. I, 28 female, am Chinese American. My husband and my in-laws are all white. On Saturday, they had a family reunion, and because my husband wanted me to go so bad, I made a traditional Chinese dish called, I'm about to butcher this, but I'm going to try, xiaolongbao. My mother-in-law gave a bad look when I placed a plate down at the table. She comes up to me and asks, "What have you got there?" I tell her what it is, and she told me that Eastern food doesn't belong in her home. I was forced to throw it out, and my heart was broken. I walked out and sat in the car for an hour waiting on my husband to come out. On the car ride home, it was mostly silent until he broke it. I got sidetracked. I'm still hung up on the fact that they made her throw it out. On the car ride home, it was mostly silent until he broke it with, "Yeah, sorry about that. My mom really doesn't like any culture outside of my family's." My in-laws have never been directly racist to me before. This is the second gathering with them I have been to, and also the third seeing my mother-in-law. My family isn't happy at this, and my sister suggested that I divorce my husband and marry within our culture. My mom was never happy with me marrying him in the first place, and I didn't have a wedding because of it. My husband has a neutral opinion on the situation and acts like it isn't much of a big deal. He said that his family didn't seem to care about our relationship at all, but I'm starting to think he may have lied to me about that. Ooh. Initial thoughts. So, before I met my husband, I always thought, because like on TV, you see where there's all the bad in-law relationships. And I always thought, oh, it doesn't matter. Like if the in-laws family doesn't like you, like as long as you two get along, that's what matters. That is wrong. If the in-laws like you, it makes things so much easier, so much better. I'm very lucky I married into a family where they like me. It helps. Oh my goodness. So to answer the question, no, OP, you are not the asshole. You are right. You brought something that you were comfortable making. You brought food that you enjoy. And given that there were no one told you in advance what to bring or what not to bring, you were right to bring food that you enjoy. That's the end of that. However, even though it was a short story, it sounds like both of your families might be racist because he admits that his mom doesn't like anyone outside of their family's culture, and you admit that your family wants you to marry within your culture. And I don't necessarily think that it's an issue that, you as a Chinese American married a white man. I just think you married the wrong person for you because clearly, and it sounds like him and his family, not just the mom, don't care about your culture, are not willing to respect your culture. And if that's important to you, then it should be important to him. So, I mean, I never like to just jump to divorce, but if your husband can't support you and won't defend you, he let them, first off, he probably knew what was going to happen. He knew it and he let you take it. He let you go. He let you get humiliated. But then not only did he let you bring it, he let them make you throw it out. And then he stayed in there for an hour while you waited in the car after you probably clearly walked out not feeling great about yourself. Bad husband. Bad husband. Yeah, I'm not going to say divorce or anything, but I would definitely reevaluate what your primary values are and how important your culture is to you, and if the relationship that you're in fits with your values. That one was kind of a hard one. Okay, we are back with story number 3. This one is coming from r/am I the asshole? AITA for refusing to leave a wedding because I wore a dress that looks white under a black light. Initial reaction, yes. I think, if it is not your wedding, if someone asks you to leave, you leave. Just like if you're at someone else's place, they ask you to leave, you leave. Basic, common courtesy to me. But let's read on and see the details. A few months ago, I attended a close friend's wedding with my husband. I wore a yellow dress. Think like Belle and Beauty and the Beast yellow. Bumblebee yellow. So yellow that I did not question if it was appropriate or not to wear to a wedding, and neither did my friends nor family. I arrive at the wedding. We have the ceremony, the cocktail hour, the dinner, and the reception. I get many compliments on the dress, and the bride even comments on how much she loves it several times. Towards the end of the reception, the venue dimmed the lights and turned on some black lights. These black lights made my dress appear more white than yellow. A member of the wedding party approached me while the black lights were on and stated that I needed to leave because my dress was white and inappropriate. I stated that the dress was yellow, but the black lights were making it appear white. The member of the wedding party stated that if I didn't leave, she would make me. I stated I'm here to celebrate my friend, repeated that the dress was yellow, and said I will not be leaving early. Bride and groom hadn't left yet, and I came from overseas. The conversation got heated. The conversation, while heated, did not have raised voices or foul language from either side, but I will say it was tense. The wedding party member walked off, and I watched as they immediately went to talk to the groom, angrily pointing in my direction. The groom shrugged and continued to dance. The next morning, I was approached by a different friend at breakfast, not in the wedding party, who stated that they heard what happened and that I should have left when asked because it made people uncomfortable, and that it made it about me partying rather than respecting wedding etiquette. I felt incredibly embarrassed about this since. So, am I the asshole for not leaving the wedding when asked? Okay, so there are a couple of edits. One OP linked a similar dress. She said, this is not the dress I wore, but similar-ish in style and color. And also, the most controversial things seem to be the blacklight dance party at this wedding. It was the last hour or so and was just a way to have fun. It was not as weird or as tacky as people were making it out to be. Okay. So I kind of teeter-totter on this one because, I mean, it was a wedding and you were asked to leave, but also the bride or the groom didn't ask you to leave. It was a wedding party member, yes. But, like, you watch them go over, talk to the groom clearly didn't care. I think if the bride or groom had a problem with it, they would have said something. I think that particular person had a problem with it and made an issue with others after. So while initially I'd be like, yes, you were asked to leave, just be polite, do the right thing, and leave. You seem to have been well aware that the bride and the groom did not care. They knew your dress was yellow. Who would have expected a black light party at the end of a wedding? Like, nobody's thinking that when they're picking out what they're going to wear to a wedding. I think you honestly made a good call picking a yellow dress. And I'm neutral. Because there's, like, a really strong part of me that's like, just leave when you're asked, but also there's a part of me that's like, the bride and the groom didn't say anything. It was their event. If they had a problem with it, they would have said something. So, nope, I've talked myself out of it. You were right, LP. I think you were right because the correct people didn't ask you to leave. That's what we're going with. All right. And for the record, the rest of Reddit also dubbed this person not the asshole. We're down to half battery. Okay. I have 3 more? Yes, I have 3 more stories. Okay. Story number 4? Hold on. Yes, story number 4. This one is coming from r/parenting. Pulling financial support for my adult daughter because she is icing me out of her life? ? I'm a recently divorced mom of 3 girls, 2 teens and 1 in college. I'm a partner at a corporate law firm and have always been the breadwinner. Over a year ago, I discovered my ex, a part-time teacher and stay-at-home dad, was living a double life, having multiple affairs and supporting some of these women financially. It shattered me, and I've been rebuilding my life since. Our divorce settlement heavily favored him because he was a stay-at-home dad. While I avoided paying alimony, he received a larger share of our estate, including half the kids' college fund. I have primary custody of the younger 2, while our college-aged daughter has grown distant. She believes her dad's narrative that I left him poor. He's now a millionaire and seems to resent me. Though all my daughters know about his infidelity, the younger 2 are angry at him, but my eldest has taken a neutral stance, saying, what happens between you and dad is your business. Her own history of cheating on boyfriends might make her more sympathetic to him. She's also more like her dad, outgoing, carefree, and since she's been in college, she's become very judgmental of my career choice, resenting capitalism and quote unquote slaves in suits, and looking down on my corporate job, even though it supports her lifestyle. I pay nearly all of her college expenses, rent, car, sorority fees, and spending money, while her dad occasionally sends her gifts or money, which she appreciates far more. Despite my efforts to stay involved, she ignores my calls unless she needs something. Recently, I learned she's spending Thanksgiving with her dad because he'd be alone, even though her sisters and grandparents will be with me. And I won't see them for Christmas since their dad gets them, which guts me because it's my first Christmas without them, which I told her. This dynamic feels eerily similar to my marriage, where I was treated like a cash cow. Behind my back, I thought I had a great marriage, but in the email/text I found in Discovery, he and his affair partners called me that, or CC for short. I'm considering scaling back financial support since she seems entitled and indifferent. I still intend to pay basics like tuition, rent, food, phone, but I am considering cutting extras like her sorority fees, car insurance, and giving her a smaller allowance and looking at more economical options for housing. When I brought it up, she accused me of wanting her to be homeless. I explained my financial strain post-divorce and how sacrifices might be necessary, but her response was dismissive, saying, "That's not my problem." These conversations have worsened our relationship, and I'm torn. I know young adults can feel entitled and clash with parents, but I feel used and unsure how to move forward. On the other hand, I understand she's not fully an adult mentally and may learn to appreciate me later, and I should suck it up and deal with this in the short term, hoping that happens. Any advice? Thanks to those who read the whole thing. That was a little bit on the longer side. I would love to know where you got the idea that you should suck it up and hope she matures. I do believe most life lessons are learned firsthand the hard way. Clearly, you have worked your ass off to give your kids everything you possibly could. Like, it sounds like you have given these girls the moon. And this one, I don't know if it's because she's older, if it's because she's more carefree like her dad. I don't know what the reason is. Because normally it's kind of twisted. Normally, like, the older ones are the more responsible ones and the younger ones kind of typically seem to be this way. But you're right, she does seem very entitled. Short answer, I think you're right to pull your financial support, especially when you're not saying you're cutting her off. You're saying you are cutting her back. I think sometimes appreciation is learned the hard way. You learn to appreciate things more when suddenly you don't have them anymore. I hate this situation for you because not only did you lose a relationship you thought was perfect, but it also probably to you feels like you're losing your oldest child as well as a result of the whole mess. I personally wouldn't blame you if you took even more away from her because, I mean, you said your husband's a millionaire now, so if that's the case, he could afford to support her while you still support the two that are in your custody. I think you've been more than generous with her. Honestly, I think if it were me, I would not be giving her allowance anymore. Like, I'll do the basics to keep you alive. I'll pay for your rent and your tuition. But, like, you're going to have to, like, if you want to have a car, you need to have car insurance. You want food, you want spending money, you need to go get a job and earn it, just like everybody else does. It sounds like it has been, I don't want to say it's been far too long without her learning this lesson, but clearly she hasn't learned it yet, and there's no time like the present. Trying to reread some of it. Yeah, her saying that, like, your cash strange post-divorce is not her problem. It is her problem if you are the one funding her whole entire life. She should be concerned. And if she's so much on her dad's side, why isn't she asking him for money? If he clearly seems to have money, and she probably knows that, as old as she is, why is she still coming to you for money if she's acting like she resents you? That, I mean, yeah, that does make it seem like your own kid is treating you more like a cash cow than a parent that they care for or respect. So I do not think you should stick it out. I think it is your money to do whatever in the world you want with. And if you want to cut her off or cut her back, I think you're fully within your right to do so. And I think that is the best thing that you can do for her. It will be rough for her at first. It will be rough on your relationship. But I don't think your relationship gets any better continuing on the way it is right now. I think, and I don't know everything. This is just my presumptions. I think you have a better chance at improving your relationship long term by forcing her to learn responsibility and learn to appreciate what you have done as a slave in a suit in your corporate job for your family. She'll appreciate that more if she has to start doing that for herself. So I am sorry to hear about your divorce, about the way that you were treated and how long all that went on behind your back. I'm sorry for the way they treated you and for what they called you. But I think you are doing the best you can, making the best of a shitty situation. And I think you're on the right track, planning to cut her back on your financial assistance to her. So OP, you are right. And I wish you luck navigating these treacherous waters. All right. Story number 5. This one is coming from r/relationship advice. My boyfriend's ex, 30 female, spent the night in my bed with my boyfriend, 30 male, but he recorded it to show me, 25 female. Nothing happened. How do we overcome this? This is a whole weird situation. Right off the bat, this sounds like a train wreck. But let's read on. I'm extremely hurt, but to my boyfriend's credit, he was very upfront about everything. He texted me immediately the morning after to tell me everything. My boyfriend, let's call him James, broke up with his ex-girlfriend, Winnie, about 2 years ago. They chose to stay friends, and this has caused some issues between James and I, mostly because Winnie just can't get over the breakup. She thinks her and James are soulmates, and she just refuses to accept that he stopped being in love with her. So a conversation they will very often have is James literally spending hours going over the logic of why he broke up with her. He tries to reassure her since they're still friends and she's hurting, but I have witnessed some of these conversations and he's loving but firm. I suspect some of you will say there's still something going on, but there really isn't. James is definitely over her. James and I moved in together just 2 weeks ago, and this has caused Winnie to be worse than ever. Like, she relapsed with the depression and the crying fits. They're happening constantly again. I went back to my parents' place this weekend because I had to pack my car full of some more of my things, and I spent Saturday night there. Winnie must have known this because Saturday night she showed up at our place, crying, wailing, the works. We have a doorbell camera, and I got a notification as soon as she was out the door. I didn't see it right away, but as soon as I saw it, I texted and called James and checked our indoor camera to see what was going on. This is where James messed up, and he admits that he messed up. He didn't text me the whole night while Winnie was there. So all I knew was that she showed up, I checked our indoor camera, we keep in the living room by the front door, and it was turned off. This is normal. We only turn it on when we're away from home. But I was extremely upset and distraught as I was imagining the worst. I trust James, but I just didn't understand why he wouldn't answer my calls. And he admits it was horrible of him. I was ready to break up with him Sunday morning, but he texted me immediately, let me know that Winnie had come over. He said it sounds really bad, but she spent the night. But nothing happened, and he set up our indoor camera in the bedroom to prove it. I didn't want to believe him, but I did watch the footage, and even though it shows both of them laying in bed, it's true that Winnie was just crying while James was consoling her. There are some things he did that bother me a lot. At some point, he kissed her forehead, and he hugged her and held her close several times. I'm honestly speechless at that. But I understand he knew there was a camera on him the whole time, and he knew I would see him doing that. So I guess he doesn't see that as cheating. So basically, James is asking me for understanding and for forgiveness. I have the proof that nothing happened, but I'm still hurt. This isn't how I imagined us starting our life together. What are the healthy next steps for our relationship? So normally I'm not the one that's like, leave, get out, but leave, get out. OP, if there was video evidence, if the timelines match up where you didn't miss like a big chunk of time, he didn't physically cheat. And while there may not be something going on in the traditional sense that people really think about, they're still emotionally tied to each other. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it. I'm going to go with entangled. They're still really connected in some way. There's a good word for this, and I can't think of it right now. Darn it. It'll come to me later. But this is not a healthy relationship that they have. So you want to know a healthy next step for your relationship. If you want to save the relationship, the only possible way that I could see this going forward is if he completely 100% cuts Winnie out of his life. I think as long as he is willing to entertain her, to console her, to keep reliving that breakup with her again and again, they're never going to be able to let each other go. Like, it has been stated and restated, she knows why he broke up with her. And if he still wanted to be with her, he could. So I get that he is mostly choosing you, but he's not fully choosing you. I think there is no chance of this relationship working if she's still in the picture at all. I think, and I'm not a fan of ultimatums, but I think you probably need to give him the ultimatum, like, she's either out completely or you are. Because this is not healthy. Like, at this point, you're in a relationship with 3 people, not 2. And it doesn't sound like that's what you want. So, I mean, me, myself, like, having seen that, like, the no communication all night long, he knew better. He did. And for whatever reason, he chose not to communicate for the entire night and leave you hanging and wondering. I never would have took the next carload of stuff over. When I went back in the morning, I would have been grabbing the stuff that was there and taking it back, and there would not have been a moving in situation. Because this is messed up, and I feel like he knows it. And maybe he's just too nice of a person to let her down and leave her hurting. But at some point, he has to let her down and leave her hurting so she can handle her own emotions. Because whatever they have going on right now is not working. It's almost as if they're not fully broken up. So, yeah. I mean, it's not... This situation is a train wreck. Fully a train wreck. Yeah. Stand up for yourself. Make 100% clear what you're comfortable with, what makes you uncomfortable, and maybe outline the steps for him to keep things on the right foot going forward to try to make it work. Or don't, whatever you want. It's just my opinion. Okay, just 5 stories for the day. That is all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Was I in the Wrong on the Misty Morrison podcast. All the stories are linked down below in the description. So if you would like to share your own opinion with OP, go ahead, follow the link to Reddit, leave them your opinion, and I will see you next time. Bye.